Hello, hello, hello. I'm just noticing how sunny it is, so just for the first minute or two, I might be a little bit dark as the sun is shining behind me, but that will change fairly quickly. So hopefully you'll be able to hear what I'm saying, because I doubt many people are coming to look at my beautiful face. So what I wanted to talk about this week was a bit about routines and rituals. Not talking about human sacrifice or anything, so don't worry. But just thinking about the importance of routine and ritual, depending on how you're wired, I guess, because it can be quite an individual thing. But how important that can be for starting and ending your day in the right way, entering and leaving work in the optimal way, just trying to squeeze the most good juice out of your life, I suppose. So I'm just going to talk a bit in general about it, and a bit in general about how I like to structure my day, what I do in my routines, where I need to improve a little bit, and then just a little bit about how you can do that if you don't currently, or how you can kind of reevaluate what you're currently doing and see whether it's working for you, essentially. So I feel a little bit like it's one of those topics where there's a danger that it's this really fashionable thing. There's been a lot of well-known, well-regarded books on the topic, and if you do a cursory internet search, you'll find quite a lot of information on things like morning routine. So morning routine is a very fashionable thing at the moment, and there's books out there like the 5 a.m. Club, I think it's called. So not necessarily advocating that you need to get up at the crack of dawn unless you want to, but I am going to advocate for getting up a bit earlier. Okay, so the whole idea about the whole thing is that you start your day in a way that's going to be beneficial to you. It gets you off the mark in the right mindset, and starts you off at an advantage, essentially. So compare and contrast, getting up in a planned and programmed way, knowing what you're going to do, having a bit more time than you normally have, versus if you're the kind of person that's very reactive and gets out of bed at the last minute and kind of rushes out the door. So how are you going to feel getting started on your day with those two approaches, essentially? And I could almost guarantee, and I'm not a big believer in absolutes, but I can pretty much guarantee that you will generally have a better chance of having a good day if you start in a controlled fashion with a good start to the day than if you sort of bounce out of bed at the last minute. There we go, I'm visible again. So that's kind of in general about morning routines. It probably makes sense just to focus on the morning one, but certainly maybe do a separate video on evening, because that's the one that I'm still trying to crack at the moment, because my evening routine needs some work, but my morning routine works pretty well for me. So I'll tell you a little bit about my routine just in general. I won't go into great detail. I got into having a morning routine and getting up earlier when I got into personal development. That was one of the first things that was recommended, was get up earlier, do some stuff that's going to be of benefit to you at the start of the day. Start the day in the right way. Don't be reactive about it. So I get up quite early. I won't tell you exactly when, but because it varies slightly, because I need to make sure that I get enough sleep, because actually a lot of your morning routine starts the night before as well. It's similar to that transition routine out of work as well. So a lot of what you do the day before at work is going to influence the kind of day you have the next day. And it's similar. If your evening routine is a complete disaster and you're not getting enough sleep, then your morning routine is also going to suffer. So it kind of starts to some degree the night before. So if you want to have a good start to your day, then sorry, just trying to stop the dog eating every bit of poo in sight, then you need to get enough sleep, and that will be very much dictated by your own kind of experiences. And it might be that you need to work separately on your sleep routine, but making sure you're getting enough sleep. So the recommended for most people is going to be somewhere between 7 and 9 hours. I try and aspire for 7. That tends to make me feel pretty good. If I get much more than that, I feel quite sluggish. If I get much less than, particularly if I get less than 6 hours, I'm struggling the next day generally. That's been a bit of an ongoing struggle over many years. So yeah, get enough sleep and then get up a bit earlier than you currently do. So particularly if you don't have a morning routine at the moment, try and start with getting up an hour earlier than you currently do. And if you want some kind of help and guidance on that, just get in touch with me and I can bat it back and forth with you. No problem at all. So yeah, I get up quite early. That's quite good for me because it gets me up before everyone else. Usually the house is pretty quiet, so I've got some space to do the things that I want to do. I currently start my morning routine by watching and listening to something from the Daily Stoic YouTube channel, which is really good, and I'm in a pretty good journaling habit at the moment as well, so it doesn't take me long, it takes me 5 minutes. I stick on the Daily Stoic and I do my journaling, which is done via journal prompts, and that's just things like, it's a bit about reviewing the previous day, it's a bit about reviewing the day ahead, and what are my priorities, what challenges am I going to face, that kind of thing. So I found that to be a really good start to the day. Sorry, still wrestling with the poo monster. And then what do I do after that? So I have a couple of check-ins, sort of accountability things that I do. I check my calendar for the day. I have a couple of little personal development things that I'm working on at the moment in terms of my own personal development. I do a little bit of writing and exercise. So exercise is a very key thing for me in my morning routine. I need to get moving. I need to have that as part of my kind of everyday. So it's built in there depending on whatever my health and fitness priorities are at that moment in time. And then once I've done that, I normally crack on with some of the household stuff, because that's quite important to me, is that whatever of the household stuff that I can nail at that moment in time means it's less for my other half to do. And then she can hopefully have a bit of an easier day. And then I go and I get ready and I go to work. And so usually by the time by the time I start at work, I've usually been up for a few hours, so it's not like I'm still groggy and half asleep from being in bed. And I usually find that that's a really good start to the day. I feel like I've got some stuff done. I don't feel like I'm chasing my tail. It's incredibly difficult to reliably do things during the day with work and also with kids as well. So I do that on my work days and my non-work days. And that just really works for me. And I've tweaked it a lot over time. I've fallen foul of various things, like struggling a bit when I sleep in and can't do my morning routine. So you do need to be quite flexible with it. How you're going to respond if you wake up a bit later than normal and you've got quite a kind of rigid routine. What do you do if one of the kids gets up a bit earlier than normal? So it's about how you can kind of respond to that as well. You don't want it to be so rigid that it kind of sets you off in a bit of a tailspin, because that's the opposite of what you're trying to do with the routine in the first place. So let's just think about how you might structure your own morning routine. So again, it's very, very individualised. If you ask anyone who does this kind of thing what they do, you will find that everyone does it slightly differently. So do not allow anyone to prescribe to you what you should do in your morning routine. But I do advocate that you should get up a bit earlier. But just bearing in mind the stuff I was saying before about getting enough sleep, that is also very important. These things are all linked together. But have a think about doing things like, just something that gives you a bit of headspace. So whether that be go for a walk, sit in silence, read a book, getting some outdoor light on your face. That might be a bit tricky in the winter time if you're getting up out super early in the morning. Doing something for some kind of physical activity. It doesn't need to be hardcore exercise. It can be a walk, whatever floats your boat, essentially. Doing something for personal development. And also, that can be a really good time to work on any side projects that you've got as well. In that kind of protected time in the morning, outside of normal work or business hours, outside of normal family time. And it's a good way to just get a bead on your priorities for the day and for the week ahead as well, so that you're hopefully starting the day on it, essentially. So that's a bit of a ramble about morning routines. My morning routine is pretty much like my superpower. I kind of regard it as that, pretty much. And yeah, I don't know how I ever did without one, to be honest. It's something I've always got under review, something I'm always trying to make slightly better, whilst not putting myself under too much pressure to get specific things done. So let me know what you think of morning routines. If you want a wee bit of guidance getting off on the right direction if you're just starting, then let me know. If you do something specific for your morning routine, let me know. I'd be really interested to hear, and I'll catch you all on the next one.